The Carolina Panthers have a date in Lambeau, and what could be a repeat of last week, but could be the start of something really special. With the return of its leader, the Slim Reaper, can this be a rebirth time for Bryce as it was last season? An improbable run that could push the Carolina Panthers out of the possible cellar and out of the butts of jokes all around the National Football League? But they'll have to do it without the services of one of their premier pass blockers and possibly two. These stories and more coming up on Growlin' and Prowlin'. Welcome back, Panther Nation. Thank you guys for joining us for another edition of Growlin' and Prowlin'. Of course, I am your host, as always, Mr. CeeLo. And happy November to you guys. Hope you guys are doing great. Just want to give you guys a huge growl out for being here and hanging around. It hasn't been easy. This has probably been the most up and down football team in the National Football League. It's been ups, it's been downs, and I mean, it's just been, it's just been a total roller coaster ride, to say the least. But thank you guys for joining me. As many of you have joined the program, like I said, YouTube is up and down when it comes to acknowledging who my new parishioners are, my new individuals that have joined the program, and I'm very grateful for all of you. The shirts are in a stall. I know many of you are curious about that. Unfortunately, the individual that I had doing this has no longer has a business, so I'm back to square one. So hopefully I can find something alternatively before the season ends. I'm much apologies. It's really difficult when you're trying to do things on your own, so please bear with me, and we're gonna have it. But as I said, if we reach a certain plateau, I'll even say if we reach 5,500 subs before the end of the season, I'll release the actual look, and that way you guys have an idea of what I work. I've got it done. Now I just got to get the idea of the shirts done. So hopefully, if you guys can tell a friend or whatnot, and basically in a nutshell, let people know that you enjoy the show, just go ahead and let them know. But let us get down to business, shall we? Nation to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now, we're facing off against a football team that is nonetheless one of the top teams in all of the National Football League. Not just the NFC, but the National Football League. And Jordan Love has been on a tear. Now, Panther Nation, this is without Christian Watson, whom arguably, when he's healthy, he's one of the top speed demons in the game. Now, we love Teteroy McMillan. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We love Ted McMillan. But there has to be some realism here with us. We've got to create better opportunities for guys like Excel. And guys, I watch a podcast all day, every day, about individuals saying that it's about the receivers playing better. Look, I hope I'm talking to a bunch of people that understand that a wide receiver is only as effective as his quarterback play and as the play calling. Because if you're not calling plays that allow the receiver to get open, what good is it? I mean, we've seen many times Sean McVay's game plans are centered around getting one, maybe two guys open in his offense. And then people are left wondering, why is this guy not successful in Sean McVay's offense. I mean, let's keep it in perspective. He's a great play caller for a certain specific player to get open. But in totality, getting a bunch of guys open, that's I mean, I get it. There are times where you just want one guy open. You want him to be the center or the focal point of that particular play. I get that. But where you lose me is when I hear so many analysts and basically podcasters basically run around and say, he's just not playing well. That's not, look, a wide receiver's ability to play well strongly hinges on whether or not the quarterback is attempting to get him the ball or whether there's a coach that is game planning for him to get the football. I hope many of you understand that. That is the reason why I think XL, it's not about XL not playing well. And it's very crucial that we be on the same page with this. And at the end of the day, most people don't really realize that. They sit and they see is the statistics, they see their performance, they see all of these little things that just lead to nothing. And when that happens, you run into a situation where the player is being chastised in the media or we're chastising him. And needless to say, it's not right. It's not right. But I didn't go off on that tangent to say, I just wanted to point that out because there are a lot of analysts out there that they quickly blame the receiver. Now, if he's got drop issues or he's not getting his feet down in bounds on obvious opportunities. But let's dive into Panthers versus Packers. Guys, we're hearing a lot of things. We already know we're down Brady Christensen. Of course, we're down Robert Hunt. And that Dave Canellis came out and said that it's possible that Cade Mays and possibly Taylor Moton are dealing with some issues. Yoshi Neiman is not what you want to deal with if you got Taylor Moton out. Because Taylor Moton, no matter... And this is no horrible shot at him, but Neiman is nowhere near on that level that Taylor Moton is. He is not. And obviously, the Carolina Panthers are going to have to address that in the draft because we already know that Taylor Moton is going to be gone in a couple of years. We know this. This is like the first year he's dealing with major injuries. He had one last season, but now it's becoming compound, something that he's never had to deal with, and it ultimately starts to happen as your body starts to get older. I know because I am in that area. But when you really start to get to that point where you realize that you're not where you used to be, things start to happen, they start to occur, and you get older, and your body just starts to break down, and that starts to that is looking like that is happening with Taylor Moton, and our offensive line is shot, and it's looking more and more like Dan Morgan has been prophetic in his thought process of we can't let this happen again. And I want to go ahead and let all you guys out there in Panther Nation, you gotta be patient, because ultimately, when you're down arguably one of the top 5 guards in the game, then you're down the best offensive line replacement in all of the National Football League. And then you're back and forth with the guy who's was your backup to start the season at center, and now he has taken over the starting spot. You're down him, and then you have to bring in several different guys to start that weren't starters. I mean, we've got to be realistic, and then you got to think, where does Bryce's confidence go? Does it go up? Does it go down? I'm getting a memo here that says that he's questionable and not out, and that was Cade Mays. So either way, his status is up in the air. So despite what we're dealing with here, we're dealing with an offensive line that's not very good. Now, here's the thing I want Panther Nation to think about. We've sat here and talked for the last 3 to 4 weeks about Rico Dowdle and how effective he is and so on and so forth. Are we going to be saying the same thing when he gets shut down this week? Or if he gets shut down this week, I should say. Because I'm already seeing that's going to happen. And I want to hear those same people that are crying for Rico Dowdle to finally acknowledge it was all about the offensive line. Look, I have nothing against Rico Dowdle. I love Chuba Hubbard, and I love when we have a running back that is killing it. I ultimately believe the running game is the most important aspect of Carolina's offense. I just get tired of mainstream media, mainstream podcasters, and mainstream YouTubers and influencers saying, why not Rico Dowdle? Why not Rico Dowdle? Calling out Chuba Hubbard instead of looking at the foundation of what has made Rico Dowdle great at this point. And it was when the Panthers finally decided, instead of starting Chandler Zavala, despite the fact he got hurt, and you put Brady Christensen in at that guard position. Not many have acknowledged that. Bruh. And that is the most important piece that has allowed this run game to open. And I really get irritated when people miss that important point. Not to mention the return of Taylor Moton. Yeah! We have to look at the idea of possibly that this offensive line has finally started to click. And it's got real leadership amongst itself. Now, when you take Brady Christensen out of it, who are you going to have to be that leadership? Corbett has not been consistent. Taylor Moton, we don't know what his status is. Cade Mays is up in the air. So with that said, what is the status of this line? And then you have to look at the fact that Rice is coming back off an injury. Could he get hurt again? That is a huge question mark. And you're facing off against a number 2 ranked run defense, if I remember what I read. And then you got Michael Parsons, who's just absolutely out there terrorizing guys, along with the rest of this front line. And I was listening to a guy that did Locked On Packers, and he says this defense does not give up a lot of deep shots. But unfortunately, if we're going to be able to run the football, we've got to back those linebackers up, keep those safeties off the line of scrimmage, and we've got to be able to take shots. This is not going to be somewhere where Canellis is going to be slow stepping. We have got to stop forcing short throws. And I'm telling you right now, that is the problem with our offense. We're not taking enough deep shots. And I'm really sick and tired of hearing people say that Bryce don't got an arm.
Stupid. Stop the cap.
He looked pretty good last year. The point is, you got to run enough play designs to get guys open. And we have the weapons. I'm not seeing enough Jimmy Horn Jr. across the middle. Now, his status is up in the air as well. I mean, you got XL. You don't need him running down the field. I mean, you can, but when are we going to start seeing crosses across the formation? All right, last week, we didn't even get a grab for Mitchell Evans. This was a guy who's just seemingly popping up everywhere, like I told you guys he would. Got good tight ends. Jatavian Sanders has yet to have one of those games where like he did in that Kansas City game where it was defined. We need to get some defining games for our tight ends and our wide receivers. And these are no knock on our wide receivers. I don't think we have a single wide receiver that would not be a starter for anybody else, including Jalen Coker and Jimmy Horn Jr., as well as Xavier Legette. And the problem I see with a lot of the media here in and around Charlotte is that they don't appreciate what the talent pool has, and they don't understand that a lot of what these receivers have to do doesn't just involve running routes and catching passes. It has a lot to do with the number one thing that most people miss in the running game: edge blocking, outside containment. If these runs that Rico Dowdle was getting, if we're to get the outside, same with Jimmy Horn Jr. or anybody that catches a reverse to the outside, those receivers have to block. I would love to see Dave Canales do that more. Put these defensive backs on notice that they have to be physical. Hey, look, you're not just going to lock up with me. That would actually help with this jams at the line of scrimmage when you get these less physical corners that want to basically jam wide receivers like Teteroa McMillan and Xavier Legette. Let them be physical with them. Let's see, 6'3", 220. That's what Excel goes. Tech goes 6'4", 6'5", 215 pounds. Let's go. Let's go. Then you got Mitchell Evans on the outside, Jatavian Sanders. Both of these guys go over 230. Along with Tommy Tremble, they go over 230. Let's rough them up a little bit. Let's just stop letting it be on the inside. Let's take a page out of what Buffalo did to us last week, which is running around us. You see, I was not overly hesitant on abandoning the fact that we had a good run defense. I just wasn't ready to acknowledge that it was really good. But here's the reality. Sean McDermott and Joe Brady found something that possibly that the Packers are going to use. And you know what that is? They're going to run the ball outside. They're going to give Dobbs and Christian Watson more than likely runs to the outside. Not saying they won't run it with Jacobs, but they're going to swing it outside to those guys. Because when you think about the guys like Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, Bobby Brown III, these guys are not necessarily mobile guys. Now, I'm not going to put, Derek Brown in that because he moves well for a guy over 320. But when you run right at a defense that's got all that beef inside, everybody realizes that the weakness the Carolina Panthers have is setting the edge and getting linebackers that can roll over. Rosboom and Trevin Wallace struggled with that last week. They had a couple of good plays, but they struggled overall. And until the Panthers can understand, and Coach Avero understands the concept of allowing his guys, Princely Emmanuel, as well as Nick Scorton, and even DJ Wanham, getting these guys out there to set the edge, that's going to be a problem. And I'm not saying that maybe we need to draft an edge guy, but I'm going to tell you, some of these guys at Clemson and Ohio State are looking pretty refreshing right now. I'm just saying, I'm not saying we give up on the DJ Wanham or definitely not the Nick Scorton or the Princely Emmanuel project. I'm not saying do that, but just saying a couple of these guys from Clemson, they're 6'4", 6'5", and they're over 280 pounds. Saying that's an option, especially on pass downs. But looking at what the Green Bay Packers have to offer, they've got a fast defense. They've got a smart defense. They've got a disciplined defense. But here's the truth about that. They have not overly been tested in their secondary either. But a lot of that is because most teams are terrified of what Micah Parsons brings. And unfortunately for us, we're probably not going to be able to test that theory. Now, if we had our line fully healthy like we had against the Philadelphia Eagles at one point, we could do that. You don't realize just how important Robert Hunt or even Brady Christensen is playing on any one of these backup spots. And we have not seen the best from Taylor Moton yet because he's got to get fully healthy. And the reality of it is they hurt you with pressure. And a lot of times they get pressure with 4. And when you got a team that can get pressure with 4, it allows them to keep many in back in the secondary. This is going to be where the Carolina Panthers are going to have to use Rico Dowdle's special, which is the screens. He can catch the football very well out of the backfield. And you're going to have to use a lot of tunnel screens, a lot of bubble screens. Maybe this is where Jimmy Horn gets his opportunity, maybe even Excel. I'm not saying I can't use Ted McMillan in a screen, but it makes more sense for him to be out there with his long arms, getting his hands on these smaller corners and blocking them. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's going to be tough to run the football if we don't have a full-fledged line. So ultimately, we can't throw in the towel. And I'm not telling them to throw out the towel. But I'm saying, simply put, we have got to come with a lot of different ins and outs to create running lanes. And then we're going to have to create types of pass plays that are going to slow down Micah Parsons and that pass rush. You got Rashawn Gary, who's really benefited from Micah Parsons being on the opposite side of him. And when you got a guy who's got 2 guys on, when you got a team that's got 2 guys that are just tearing it up, that's a cause for concern. And truly, the Carolina Panthers are going to have to come up with different ways. Canellis is going to have to dig in his bag of tricks. And I'm going to be honest with you, the 2 strengths that I really would like to see Canellis do more of, speed up the tempo. You don't necessarily have to go fast, but you have to give the illusion that you're going fast. Make that defense overthink or underthink. When you get a team going up to the line of scrimmage fast, you could still run pace. But you have to be in a situation where you say, okay, let's speed it up just a little bit. Let's get the defense overthinking or underthinking. I've said it twice because ultimately, to me, I watched it at a high school game last night, and I saw way too many times where the defense was out of position. And then I saw times where the offense would let the defense set up. I got 3 defensive backs over here, and I got 3 wide receivers over here. If I'm the quarterback, what are you doing? I'm taking that rock and I'm throwing it over here. Thank you. But ultimately, I have not seen Dave Canellis understand that Bryce looks good. And I don't know if any of y'all have seen it. Bryce looks better when he's running at a fast count. He just does. And then the other thing is, and I saw it written in an article, Bryce is very good with his mobility. Very good. Now, I will admit a couple of his interceptions have come off of high throws when he's in motion, but other than that, I'll take them. Because when he does move, it reaps a lot of benefits, a lot of 20-yard chunk plays. And I know what people are going to say, well, you can't live and die. Oh, yes, you can. Oh, yes, you can. I watched the Chicago Bears last week, and I said to myself, why did the Bears not do more rollouts with Caleb Williams last week? They just went down the field. You have to do what your quarterback's strengths are. And too many times we're talking about Bryce in a situation where, well, he should do it like this. All quarterbacks are different. They're all different. And you have to be prepared to play to their strengths. Enough about that. Let us go towards the Green Bay Packers offense and what the Carolina Panthers need to do to stop it. Ultimately, Jordan Love is playing some daggum good football. Through 7 games, he's thrown 1,798 yards. Now, a lot of people will say, that's pretty good. But the 13 touchdowns, 2 interceptions are concerning because needless to say, when you start watching what this Green Bay Packers team does, and then you throw in the fact that really Josh Jacobs hasn't gotten going, and now they're getting Christian Watson back. You're watching a football team that started out impressively and looked unstoppable in a lot of ways, and arguably is one of the favorites in the NFC. They don't do anything specifically special. Jordan Love is a lot like a young version of Patrick Mahomes. He wants to throw that thing down the field. He loves deep throws. In an offense where the tight end is the number 1 target in this offense and the number 1 pass catcher, and that's been a weakness for the Panthers. I hope Coach Avero's ready for it, but then again, it's a situation where you got Christian Watson coming back off of a major ACL tear and just got an extension, basically an act of good faith by the Green Bay Packers organization, and basically telling him, hey, we didn't want you to come back this year. Not that we didn't want you, but we wanted you to focus on rehab. It's funny how a new contract and a new extension basically reasserts you. Not saying that's what it did, but ultimately, you're looking at a guy that basically got rejuvenated because the team believed in him. So now the Panthers have to deal with this situation. And you've got an offense that has really not really been great. And Matt LaFleur has really got this team in a situation where they're kind of controlling things. They're not necessarily blowing teams out. They got everything under control. They're kind of just coasting at this point, which leads me to believe that this is why the Panthers could come in and win this game. It's all going to depend on the O-line and whether or not the D-line can create boundaries on that running game. Because ultimately, I am very much confident in J.C. Horn and very confident in Mike Jackson and confident in Trayvon Moehrig. You know, even though he did get exposed in coverage last week, and I think that's when in the National Football League, that's what gets caught up. And I honestly think they're going to have to go to Moehrig and Lathan Ransom more. It needs to stop being just this situational thing with Lathan Ransom, because Trayvon Moehrig is a good safety in the box. He's a box safety. He's not really adept to, not like he was at TCU. You know, you go from playing the basically the field safety all the way up to the line of scrimmage and playing box safety, especially if you're a guy like him who loves to tackle and hit. It becomes a problem, an issue when you get from that to having to play field safety and tackle guys in space. It really becomes a problem. And coverage as well, knowing coverages and zones. So it's been a struggle for him. Not a whole big struggle, but you can tell on the back end it's been a struggle. And Lathan Ransom has been a plus. Nick Scott has been up and down. And I'm talking about up and down. It's either really good or really bad. I mean, that's just no other way to put it. And needless to say, that's got to be fixed when you got Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And Matt LaFleur is going to hurt you. If you can bet your dollar, Panther Nation, be ready for some toss plays in this game against us. Because Matt LaFleur does not let a weakness go. I can guarantee you he's got about 3 or 4 different ways this ball's going to run outside. Be ready for it. And ultimately, Coach Avero's got DJ Wanham as well as Trayvon Morig at least 2 or 3 yards on the outside because we had a really, really tough time setting the edge. That was one thing I heard somebody give Pat Jones a lot of credit for with him missing, is that when we had Pat Jones out there, the few runs to the outside really got defended well by Pat Jones. The edge was really set well. But you could really tell with Nick Scorton and Princely Emmanuel when they were in the game that the Bills really took advantage of edge setting. But all in all, I feel like this could be a close game early. I think we're going to have to get, some turnovers. We're going to have to force Jordan Love to turn over the ball, maybe even cause a fumble out of those receivers. But we can't forget about Josh Jacobs now. Josh Jacobs is going to want to be a pound and pound kind of guy. And so I'm not saying he won't run it on a sweep, but he's one of those guys. He loves to run right at us. And if that's what he wants to do, cool. Welcome to the Brown boys. But ultimately, I see us falling in this game. I think it's going to be closer than the experts think because the Panthers are coming off an embarrassing loss. Would not surprise me if we won, but I don't see it because of our issues up front. And I'm talking about offensive line. If Cade Mays, Taylor Moton, and Austin Corbett are able to go, I think we'll be fine. We've got to have those 3 guys play. If Cade Mays is out and Taylor Moton is out, I mean, Austin Corbett can play, but you're talking about replacing, Neiman and a guy that we don't even know. Guys, let me know what you think. Please make sure you comment and put your name down below if you are a first-time subscriber. And if you're just a regular subscriber, make sure you comment below. Tell me what I got wrong, what I got right. Also, make sure you join my Facebook group at Growlin' and Prowlin'. Finally, make sure you go over to my Instagram at Mr. CeeLo so you can keep up with all the in-season shenanigans that I will be caught up in. But until the next time, don't forget to leave your mark while prowling the airwaves and growling out. Keep pounding.